Hi, I'm Erica. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to be here. Thanks, Professor Cowling and Dr. Sim, for organizing this ASCILITE webinar session. I appreciate the opportunity to share my ideas with you. Before I begin my presentation, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past and present. The topic of this webinar is about avatars because my research investigates the effectiveness of using avatars for enhancing collaboration. I'll introduce different forms of avatars, and during our time together, we'll be discussing the benefits and considerations of using avatars in digital learning environments. I'd like to introduce the topic by asking, did you watch Avatar, and do you know where the term avatar comes from? When I watched the first Avatar film, I didn't know the origin of the word. I learned its origin after I started my research on this topic a few years ago. The word avatar in Hindi is closely connected with the concept of reincarnation, which is about beginning a new life in a new body after biological death. I found that the first Avatar film perfectly shows how to begin a new life in a new body through an avatar. It's interesting to think about the film after knowing the origin of the word. Since the focus of this presentation is using avatars in collaborative learning environments, let's talk about digital avatars. Nowadays, an avatar is commonly known as a digital representation of the user in digital environments, and there are various forms of avatars. Here I show you some of my avatars. The first one on the top is a simple screen name which can be used for self-representation in digital environments. An avatar can also be a graphical icon or image, while its more complex form could be a lifelike, animated 3D character which is very common in video games and virtual worlds. And this is my 3D avatar created in one of my favorite video games, The Sims, which is a life simulation game. Some of you may not know this game, but you may know virtual worlds such as Second Life where users create 3D avatars to represent themselves. Since there are various forms of avatars, I created this diagram to have a more organized discussion. There are non-graphical avatars such as screen names and social media handles. For graphical avatars, they may be non-customizable, which doesn't allow users to edit the details of their avatars. Examples are photos and icons uploaded by users. But graphical avatars can be customizable through a specific application, such as the Facebook Avatar Editor, Apple Memoji Editor, Reddit Avatar Creator, and Second Life Avatar Creator, which allow users to create and edit their animated characters. All forms of avatars can allow students to be recognized because they let students to present an identity in the digital environments. And any form of avatars can allow students to have a certain degree of self-expression and a certain level of social presence. It's important to feel the presence of others in the communication because it enables social interaction and social learning, and social presence is found to promote commitment and retention in online communities. Now I have a question for you. Which forms of avatars do you think are more beneficial for students' collaborative learning? Or which forms of avatars do you want students to use when they interact with other students? Do you think all of them are useful? Let's discuss the benefits and considerations of using each form of avatars. You may not think that non-graphical avatars, such as screen names, could be beneficial for students' collaborative learning because the level of social presence this form of avatars offers is low and it seems less engaging. But it could afford students a higher level of anonymity and contribute to a more attention and content-focused learning environment. Since this form of avatars doesn't have visual elements, it's accessible to students with visual impairments, and it also eliminates bias based on appearance, which can create a more inclusive learning environment. And even though non-graphical avatars have limited expression, they are easy to implement and moderate in learning environments. So, these are the benefits and considerations of using non-graphical avatars in learning environments, and this form of avatars has its place. Next, let's talk about graphical and non-customizable avatars such as photos and icons uploaded by users. With the presence of visual elements, this form of avatars reduces anonymity and increases social presence. When compared with non-graphical avatars, graphical avatars allow a higher degree of self and identity expression. Also, non-customizable avatars allow students to present a formal and professional image of themselves by uploading their headshots. Since students can upload an image of their choice, adopting this form of avatars is more flexible and feasible than asking students to customize their animated characters through a specific application. Some considerations of using graphical and non customizable avatars include whether this form of avatars would be less inclusive and more distracted by allowing students to show their physical attributes and use various kinds of images. Finally, let's discuss graphical and customizable avatars such as Facebook avatars and Second Life avatars. This form of avatars enables students to express and present themselves without sharing personal photos. And customizable avatars can be used in virtual worlds and the metaverse to engage students and give them a higher level of social presence in digital environments. But existing avatar creators and avatar editors often focus on avatar styling, so they provide users with a variety of outfits and accessories, and using customizable avatars could distract students from their learning tasks. Also, this form of avatars may be less inclusive, less formal, and less professional, and require greater implementation effort than the other two forms of avatars. We've discussed different forms of avatars and the benefits and considerations of using them in digital learning environments. I'd like to expand on this topic for a few more minutes. Earlier in this webinar session, I showed you some of my avatars that represent me. Erica, the person who is presenting this session. But if you still remember the origin of the word avatar, then you'll realize that avatar is also about beginning a new life in a new body. Here I show you some of the avatars that don't look like me at all, but I used them in digital environments and they gave me new identities. Using avatars that don't link to my offline identity allows me to be more focused on the activity, which can be a task in a game or an academic discussion in an online forum. And having a digital representation makes me feel more present and less anonymous. But when I reviewed the literature on using avatars in learning environments, I found that the existing research mainly considers avatars that link to students' offline identity. Students' identity is known to others in the digital learning environment, no matter if it's a virtual world or a discussion forum. There is very little investigation into the potential of giving students new identities in avatar mediated collaborative learning. So, it'd be interesting to think about how avatars that enable students to create new identities may facilitate collaborative learning. If you're interested in knowing more, have a look at one of my projects, tuvatar.com. Thank you all for your time today. I hope that you found this session helpful. If you've any questions or would like to collaborate, feel free to get in touch. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.